Hello, everyone. Today I will be talking about climate change. Climate change is one of the most important environmental and social issues facing our world today. It affects ecosystems, economies, human health, and even the way societies function. In this presentation, I will explain what climate change is, what causes it, how it affects both the environment and people, and why understanding it is important from a sociological perspective. Before looking at specific impacts, it's helpful to understand the major areas connected to climate change. Climate change begins with causes such as greenhouse gas emissions, changes in the carbon cycle, and feedback loops that intensify warming. These causes lead to impacts like extreme weather, sea level rise, biodiversity loss, and resource scarcity. The effects do not stop with the environment. Climate change also creates human and societal consequences, including public health concerns, migration, economic costs, and environmental justice issues. Because of these widespread impacts, solutions such as reducing emissions, adaptation strategies, carbon offsetting, and policy changes are becoming increasingly important. One major issue is rising global temperatures. The Earth's average temperature has increased significantly due to human activities, especially the burning of fossil fuels. Scientists estimate that temperatures have risen roughly 1.1 to 1.44 degrees Celsius above pre industrial levels. As temperatures rise, extreme weather events become more frequent and intense. These include heat waves, droughts, hurricanes, and heavy rainfall events. Another major problem is sea level rise. As glaciers and ice sheets melt and ocean water expands from warming, sea levels continue to increase, threatening coastal communities around the world. Climate change also contributes to biodiversity loss. Many species are unable to adapt quickly enough to changing environmental conditions, leading to population declines and increased extinction risks. A current event related to environmental sociology is the belief in chemtrails. Some people believe that aircraft leave behind chemicals in the sky that negatively affects health and the environment. From a sociological perspective, this issue is interesting because it reflects how people respond to uncertainty and environmental concerns. It also demonstrates how distrust in governments and institutions can influence public understanding of environmental issues. While scientific evidence shows these trails are primarily condensation trails, the belief itself helps us understand how environmental fears and social trust interact. Climate change is influenced by decisions made at a state and governmental level. Governments contribute when they fail to implement strong environmental policies, continue subsidizing fossil fuels, or delay climate action. Here in Minnesota, debates over mining near the boundary waters highlight the challenge of balancing economic development with environmental protection. Decisions regarding land use and natural resources can have long term environmental consequences. Governments can also contribute by investing in renewable energy and climate adaptation strategies that could reduce future impacts. Corporations play a major role in climate change. Many fossil fuel companies have contributed to greenhouse gas emissions through the extraction, production, and sale of coal, oil, and natural gas. In addition, some corporations have spent significant resources lobbying against environmental regulations or delaying climate action. This demonstrates how economic interests can sometimes conflict with environmental sustainability. Individuals also contribute to climate change through everyday activities. Transportation, electricity use, consumption habits, and deforestation all increase greenhouse gas emissions. While individual actions alone cannot solve climate change, collective choices by millions of people can have a meaningful impact. Although human activities are the primary cause of modern climate change, natural processes can also influence the climate. Volcanic eruptions and solar variations affect global temperatures, but scientists agree that these factors cannot explain the rapid warming observed today. Technology has also contributed by increasing industrial production and energy consumption. Minnesota is already experiencing some climate related effects, including milder winters and increased tick populations, which raises concerns about diseases such as Lyme disease. Several sociological concepts help explain climate change. In the 20 Lessons textbook, the treadmill of production theory argues that continuous economic growth often comes at the expense of environmental health. Governments and industries frequently prioritize economic expansion even when environmental damage occurs. According to Nixon, risk theory helps explain how modern societies create risks through technological and industrial development. Climate change is one example of a human created risk with global consequences. The Cambridge Educational Lecture discussed how Earth's interconnected systems, the atmosphere, hydrosphere, lithosphere, and biosphere, are all affected by climate change. Finally, a lecture from STAT stated information on extreme heat that emphasized that heat related disasters are becoming one of the deadliest consequences of climate change. The environment's impacts of climate change can be seen across ecosystems, biomes, habitats, and the biosphere as a whole. Forests, oceans, wetlands, and Arctic regions are all experiencing significant changes. Habitats such as coral reefs and mangroves are especially vulnerable. Because all living systems are interconnected, disruptions in one area often can create a ripple effect throughout the entire ecosystem. Some scientists argue that we are currently experiencing a sixth mass extinction event. Species such as moose, walleye, and brook trout are already facing challenges from rising temperatures and changing habitats. For example, warmer winters allow ticks to survive longer, placing additional stress on moose populations. Rising water temperatures also threaten cold water fish species like brook trout and walleye. Climate change affects all forms of life. Plants face increased drought, heat stress, and invasive species and wildfire risks. Animals experience habitat loss, migration changes, food shortages, and increased disease exposure. Fungi are affected through changes in growth patterns, reproduction, and soil conditions. These impacts demonstrate how climate change affects entire ecosystems, not just individual species. All of these ecological impacts can ultimately be traced back to human activities. The burning of fossil fuels and widespread deforestation increase greenhouse gas concentrations in the atmosphere. As temperatures rise, environmental and economic damages become more severe. This connection shows that climate change is not only a natural science issue, but also a social issue involving human choices and behaviors. Climate change also directly affects human health. Extreme heat can cause heat exhaustion, heat stroke, and even death. Warmer temperatures allow mosquitoes and ticks to survive longer, increasing the spread of diseases such as Lyme disease and malaria. Wildfires and air pollution contribute to respiratory problems, including asthma and lung disease. Climate change creates major economic costs for society and individuals. For society, damaged infrastructure, reduced agriculture productivity, and increased government spending places significant financial burdens on communities. For individuals, costs appear through higher food prices, insurance rates, healthcare expenses, and property damage. Workers may also lose income when extreme weather disrupts employment. Climate change affects the society in several ways. Food systems are threatened when extreme weather damages crops and livestock. Climate migration occurs when people are forced to leave areas affected by floods, wildfires, droughts, or sea level rise. Resource scarcity can also increase tensions between groups and nations, creating the potential for conflict and political instability. Certain populations experience greater risks than others. Low income communities often face greater exposure to pollution and have fewer resources for recovery after disasters. Workers in high risk industries such as agriculture and construction face dangerous heat exposure. Children are especially vulnerable because climate related disasters can disrupt education and increase health risks. Climate change also affects people on a personal level. Some jobs may disappear as industries transition away from fossil fuels. Housing instability may increase as extreme weather damages homes or forces relocation. Many individuals also face growing financial burdens through increased costs for food, insurance, healthcare, and home repairs. Now, you may ask, who is benefiting from all of this? While climate change creates widespread harm, some groups may benefit economically. Fossil fuel companies have historically profited from extracting and selling carbon based energy sources. Certain insurance companies may increase premiums in high risk areas. Disaster recovery companies often see increased demand following climate related disasters, and water infrastructure and resource management companies may also profit as water scarcity becomes a growing concern. To sum all of this up, climate change is far more than an environmental issue. It affects ecosystems, economies, governments, communities, and individual lives. The evidence shows that human activities are the primary driver of modern climate change, and the impacts are already being felt around the world. Understanding climate change through both scientific and sociological perspectives helps us recognize not only the environmental consequences, but also the social inequalities it creates. As future citizens, consumers, and leaders, we all have a role in supporting solutions that reduce emissions, protect vulnerable populations, and create a more sustainable future.